Hello, fellow cultists. This is DM No, and I am back with another episode of Shadow of the Demon Lord Talk, or Sotdl Talk, as I like to call it. It's been a while. I haven't done a video in a while, and the reason for that is because I haven't been playing Shadow of the Demon Lord lately. Unfortunately, my current group has wanted to do some D&D, and so I'm back to the old standard D&D campaign. And so that is the main reason why I haven't done a Shadow of the Demon Lord video. I am itching to do some Shadow of the Demon Lord, though. So I'm actually in the middle of creating a Shadow of the Demon Lord adventure for Roll20. Takes a lot of work, though, so it's going to be a while before that sees the light of day. But hopefully I will get that finished here in a short time and get that out there for people to use. It's got to be play tested though, so it's going to be a while. Anyway, that's later. For now, I do want to use this video time to just share with you a few things that are on sale on Roll20. And one of them is the new token set that I have just put out to support Shadow of the Demon Lord and D&D, since I'm playing both. As you know, I think I've said it in previous videos, I tend to draw my tokens so that I can use them in my games. And, by me being able to use them in my games, of course, hopefully that means that other people would be able to use them as well. But selfishly, I create them for me, and then I just throw them out there for sale, and hopefully somebody else can appreciate the artwork as well. So at any rate, my current set is Bloody Tokens 5, and as you can see, it's got a few fan favorites here in Beholder. We got a Xenomorph there, we got a Gibbering Mouther, and then a few other things that I've added from various other media. So this is the cover page for the set. I'm actually going to go and into the Roll20 marketplace real quick, and let's find the set here. All right, so here it is, Bloody Tokens 5, and when you take a look at the set, it's got 25 tokens like it usually does, and several of these are derived from Shadow of the Demon Lord products. So this guy right here is my version of the Termagant, and that was in the Hell supplement. What was that called? Nope, it's eluding me. Anyway, the supplement that details Hell has several monsters in it, and the Termagant is one. Of course, I call him Boneblade because I don't want to, copyright infringe anybody. But basically, it's essentially the same type of creature. So I also have an Earth Elemental who couldn't use an Earth Elemental at some point. All right, we also have an Evil Cupid, which is also inspired by a creature from that same Hell supplement. Then we have the three Beholder creatures here. We have the Five-Eyed Beast, which is actually the D&D Spectator. 11-Eyed Beast, which is the Beholder. And then we have the 11-Eyed Beast Zombie, which is the Zombie Beholder. All right, we have the Gibberish Blob, which is a Gibbering Mouther. And Goblin King. So the Goblin King was, of course, inspired by the movie Labyrinth and David Bowie's rendition of the Goblin King, which I believe is what the Goblin King in Shadow of the Demon Lord is modeled after. I could be wrong there, but I believe I read that somewhere in one of the interviews, or maybe I heard it on a podcast. I'm not really sure, but anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So the Goblin King for Shadow of the Demon Lord. There you go, David Bowie. All right, then I included some dragons in this set because why not? Who couldn't use dragons? So I got a green dragon, I got a purple dragon, and I got a three-headed red dragon. And a white dragon. So the three-headed red dragon I'm using for my current D&D campaign. It's actually, I call it a Veil Dragon because it's my D&D campaign set in the Nentir Veil. And the three-headed dragon that my players will eventually encounter is part of that campaign, so that's why I drew the token. I also have the white dragon. I used that actually in an adventure about a month ago. So I needed a white dragon on that was actually on land, and then I needed one in flight. So that's why I had a couple of different versions of that. But anyway, I skipped ahead. So we have the green flame skull. I love this one, the Green Ghost. This is, for those of you who have been around as long as I have, can you recognize this from the Scooby-Doo Where Are You cartoon, where Scooby-Doo had inherited a fortune from some dude that liked Scooby-Doo, I guess. I forget the reason, but at any rate, the mansion, of course, that they met in to get the inheritance was haunted by these green ghosts, which, of course, ended up being not ghosts at all. But, spoiler alert, but the ghosts were creepy and cool, and I've always had a spot for them in my heart since I was a little kid. So I wanted to go ahead and include them in a token set at some point. And once I finally managed to get the ethereal look the way I liked it, I went ahead and included it into the set. All right, this dude I'm calling a Harbinger, and he's really kind of just a demon or devil-looking dude with a flaming black sword. He doesn't represent anything in particular other than I was going to run an adventure, a 4th edition D&D adventure that had a dude that looked very similar to this in it. But I ended up not running that adventure, but I went ahead and drew this guy for that adventure anyway. So I have him in case I ever want to run that adventure. But at any rate, he's pretty. You could use him for pretty much any type of bad guy. All right, so I wanted to include a couple of boss or solo characters in this set. And the first one I did was what I call the Lord of Death, but my actual campaign name for him is Necrius. The Lord of Death, and he is a big bad dude that is essentially my homebrew world's version of Orcus. He is the Lord of Undead, or Lord of Death. He is a master of undead, and he is a badass with a badass scythe. So at any rate, that's one boss character, and I'll get to the second one here in a little bit. I happened to be flipping through some cable channels, and I came across Land of the Lost. And of course, part of the Land of the Lost appeal is the evil Sleestack, the lizard man race that inhabits the Land of the Lost world. And so that inspired me to draw a Sleestack, just as an alternative lizard man, if anybody wants something that looks less like a typical lizard man and more like Sleestack. There you go. All right, this next one, Mandible Vampire. This thing was there's a couple of inspirations for the Mandible Vampire. First of all was the Blade 2 movie. Blade 2, which has Wesley Snipes in it. I think it was early 2000s or late 1990s. When that movie came out, but these featured a new type of vampire that actually fed on other vampires, and rather than having fangs, it has a mouth that opens up and the mandible splits, and then this tongue comes out, and that's what they use to drink the blood of their victims. So that is one inspiration. The second inspiration was the movie. Guillermo del Toro, the director and writer, had a series of books featuring vampires. There's actually a vampire apocalypse. Can't think of the name of the book right now, and they also had a movie miniseries based on this as well. And it's eluding me, but at any rate, they had the same type of mandible kind of vampires. So I also wanted to, to model that token off of that. So there you go. Mandible Vampire is an alternative vampire for you. One of my favorite cryptids in current modern folklore is the Mothman. So I wanted to go ahead and draw the Mothman, but I wanted to make him look very surreal and very, just irregular and bizarre looking. Because that's how the Mothman is described by people who have supposedly encountered him. And so I wanted to try to capture that in an image without actually drawing a clear monster with all the features visible. I wanted to make him very dark and very, just real bug-like and real creepy looking. So I think I captured that for the most part. The next token is my version of the Displacer Beast, which of course I'm calling the Obfuscation Beast for copyright reasons, and I don't want to piss off D&D. I don't want to get an Instagram from them. So my Obfuscation Beast is essentially the same type of creature. So there you go. Purple Dragon, I already mentioned him. I wanted to do a purple dragon because, I like the color purple, and, I don't think there's a whole lot of purple dragons on Roll20, so I think I have maybe one of the only ones. So there you go. Good enough reason for me. All right, the Terror Doll. Terror Doll, I love this guy because he's inspired by an old horror movie from the 70s. And the horror movie was actually called The Trilogy of Terror, and it had 3 short stories in the movie. The third short story is where this little guy comes from. And the story is based on this woman that is terrorized by a voodoo doll that comes to life and chases her through her apartment. So that's what this little guy is based off of, and I just love the look of the doll in the movie, and I wanted to capture that. Hopefully, I did a decent job there. But anyway, look it up. It's a terrible movie now because it's from the 70s and it's not aged well, but still, it's fun to watch. So just download it at some point and watch it, and you can see the little terror doll in action. All right, this is also another dude from the Hell supplement, which I still can't think of. It'll come to me as soon as I'm done with this video. And this guy, I forget what he's named in the... Tormentor. Okay, so he is a Tormentor in that supplement, but I call him the Torment Devil because, again. But anyway, he's big. He's just a big fat dude with his eyes sewn shut and a big plug in his mouth. So if that's not disconcerting for anybody, then I don't know what to tell you. All right, so I already went through the dragons here. Finally got to one of my favorite drawings in the set, which is the Witch King. Of course, I modeled him after Ashrakal, the Witch King of the Shadow of the Demon Lord world. And I just kind of drew him based on what I envision him to look like. I really have no idea what he actually looks like. I think there's only been 1 or 2 renditions made of him, and I don't think I liked either of them. So I did my own, and I gave him a black glowing sword with, kind of creepy death glow around it, and also a serpent staff. Because that's what I just kind of envision the Witch King having. And then just because he is a king, he's got to have a crown. So I gave him a crown helmet. And I thought it turned out pretty good. So that's one of my favorites from this set. I do plan on using him at some point when I introduce Ashrakal back into the world of Rule at some point in the future. But hopefully... Schwab Entertainment will actually put out a campaign, as they have alluded to, and I won't have to do the heavy lifting of writing a campaign myself. So that is hopefully something I can use in the future. To include a Xenomorph, he's something I've been wanting to include in one of my sets since I started doing this. And I finally got around to drawing a version of the Xenomorph that I could stomach. And I'll probably do a different one for another set because I really wanted to get the extra set of mouth, the extra mouth that ejects from his mouth in the picture, but I wasn't able to do it with this particular image. So I plan on doing another one and certainly getting that that second mouth out in the picture. All right, so that is my Bloody Tokens 5 set. I hope that you take a look at it, and if you run your games on Roll20, hopefully this will be a set that you could utilize. Again, it accompanies my other sets, a couple of which are pictured down here, Bloody Tokens 3, Bloody Tokens 2. I also have 1 and 4, obviously. But I wanted to, and I just wanted to go through and show you the latest set because I'm kind of proud of it. All right, so since I'm in the marketplace, I also wanted to point out a couple of other things that have hit Roll20 that really came by surprise to me anyway, because I had not read or heard anywhere that Schwab Entertainment was working on this. So it was a very pleasant surprise to see some adventures that have been placed in the marketplace. And the first set of adventures that went in were starting adventures, and the second set just hit this week, and these are novice tier adventures. The novice tier adventures are the Knife in Your Hand and Necessary Sacrifices, neither of which I have run at this point, so I'm really stoked that these are in here. This gives me an opportunity to perhaps run a online game just as a just as an ad hoc game, a standalone game out there that I can play while I'm doing my D&D campaign for my standard group. Okay, so I also wanted to take a few minutes to just kind of go through the adventures in Roll20, and the when you purchase the adventures, they become available to you as an add-in to your existing campaign. So for my existing Shadow of the Demon Lord campaign, this is the campaign that I use basically for my for all of my Shadow of the Demon Lord campaigns that I run for my home group. This is where I keep all of my information that I have. Oh shoot, I didn't want to do that. But anyway, this is where this campaign is where I keep all of my stuff that I have transferred into Roll20 or typed in manually into Roll20 to support my campaign, such as my spell books and my my version of the compendium, which of course there's not a Shadow of the Demon Lord compendium. I hope that is something that's in the works, but since it's not available currently, I wanted to go ahead and add my own compendium in there, and I have been working on that for some time. All right, so I also have both purchases of those adventures in my campaign, and as I said, they come in as add-ons. So when you open when you get to your campaign in Roll20, you have the option to add game add-ons. So when you click on that, it will give you a drop-down that shows all the different add-ons that are available for your game that you have purchased or picked up from the marketplace. And so when you purchase the Shadow of the Demon Lord adventures, then those will show in here as so. You can see Shadow of the Demon Lord Starting Adventures 1, Shadow of the Demon Lord Novice Adventures 1. So both of these are already included as add-ons in my game. So when you include something as an add-on, it becomes something that you can easy for me to say. That is something that you can add to a game whenever you need to. So let me go ahead and launch my game, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So the add-ons appear in your journal. This icon represents your journal, and it appears as a folder with the name of the adventure. So you have a folder that is created that is for the Knife in Your Hand. Then you have a folder that's created for Necessary Sacrifices, and of course, Dark Deeds and Last Hope, Dead by Dawn, and the Slaver's Lash are the starting adventures. So these are all dropped in whenever you select that add-on and add it to your campaign, your existing campaign. Then these folders are created automatically. Now I created this folder that says starting adventures so that I can categorize my adventures by tier. Which makes it easier for me to locate an adventure that I want that is a particular tier without having to hunt through all the adventures that I hope will eventually be available in Roll20. So I created this folder, and then I just stuck all the starting adventures into that folder, and then the novice adventure folder I created, and I stuck the two novice adventures into that folder. So the knife in your hand and necessary sacrifices are in the novice adventure folder. And so I went ahead and expanded the necessary sacrifices so you can see everything that's included in the adventure when you purchase it. And incidentally, the purchase was, I believe, for this one $4.99, and I believe these three up here were $5.49 or something like that. Very affordable, and you get more than one adventure. So it's a hell of a deal. I would encourage you to go out there and support Schwab Entertainment by purchasing these in the Roll20 marketplace. Even though I already have I already have the adventures in PDF format from the Kickstarter that I supported. I went ahead and purchased them here anyway because it's easier to do that than it is to try to import things into Roll20 from a PDF. It's doable. It's just not something that I want to spend my time doing if I can just buy it for $5 and be done with it. So here we have necessary sacrifices, and all the things that are included are broken out here in these separate folder or in these separate files. So you have credits, you have the introduction for necessary sacrifices, and you have the background. Then you have getting started. Then you have the monster hunt. Brigand's Cave is detailed. The farewell feast, the new god's wrath, and the final chapter, necessary sacrifices. So, and of course the conclusion. So the adventure is broken out by each of its components, and then it also includes the characters and monsters that are part of the adventure. And when you open these up, you get a nice little NPC version of the character sheet for the NPCs. You also get a circular token, which I'm not a fan of, but I know a lot of people like those. So for those of you that like those, great. I'm not one of them. I like the top-down version as my token set represents. So that's what I tend to utilize. Here's a hired killer. And I believe that all of the macros that you would need are already incorporated, including the boons and banes, which is very cool. Here we got a lash crawler. I love these monsters. And so on. So you've got all the monsters that are included in the adventures provided for you, along with a token that you can use. And there's also a map that you can use. Now, the map is shown in the information here, but it is also already provided to you in your maps up in the drop down for your maps. So let's see, where was I? Necessary sacrifices right here. You get the cover page. So if you are streaming or if you want to just start your adventure with your group with a splash page, there you have the necessary sacrifices splash page, which is pretty cool, very creepy looking. And then of course you have the Brigand's Cave, which is part of that adventure. This is my only gripe about this. This is basically just the map that was drawn for the adventure and, plastered into Roll20. But it really doesn't do me any good Well, let me rephrase that. It's really not my preference for a map in Roll20. I prefer my maps to be a little bit more realistic looking. And so this is a good representation of the map. Don't get me wrong. It's very usable. You can drag, your characters out here and you can run them along, but you can see it's not at any scale that, is usable. And the, it's basically just a black and white drawing of a map. So I'm not a big fan of this. I will probably, if I ever run this, I'll probably just use a map of a cave system that is close enough to this that I can at least get all of these different areas in and go with that, because I prefer to have a grid. I prefer to have the map look like caves rather than a drawing of caves. And so that's really basically my only gripe about this. But hey, it was only $5, so I'm not going to complain too much. All right, so those are the characters, and then you have the items. That these would be the enchanted items that are included, or the relics that are included in the adventure that may come into play, or probably will come into play. So all that you need to run the adventure is listed here. And I didn't go through each one because I really don't want to, take an entire video to go through the entire adventure. And quite frankly, to be honest with you, I haven't really read it because I'm not planning on running the adventure anytime soon. But I did want to just at least go through it and show you that, first of all, it's on sale in Roll20, and which is a great thing in and of itself, and everything that you get with it. Which is, a significant amount of information. And it has hyperlinks where appropriate, and just lots of juicy goodness for your Shadow of the Demon Lord campaign. Or if you just wanted to do a one-off game, these are excellent for that. So that is the other thing I wanted to show on this video that is part of Roll20, and I wanted to show you how that is incorporated into your Roll20 campaign page. So there you go. And that's really about all I wanted to cover. Since I don't have a game, unfortunately, happening right now in Roll20, I can't really talk about much else. There's been some other stuff that has been produced by Sotdl Entertainment. There have been a couple of adventures for, well, first of all, Punk Apocalyptic was released. I don't know if that was released before or after I did my last video, but it's been released. Now, Punk Apocalyptic is like the Road Warrior version of Shadow of the Demon Lord. And I supported that Kickstarter as well. And I believe there's been 2 or 3 adventures that have been released for that as part of that Kickstarter, which I have all of them. However, I have not run the Punk Apocalyptic game as of yet. And I'm not sure I will anytime in the near future, because D&D is going to pretty much occupy the bulk of my current time, and then when I'm done with that, I plan on coming back to Shadow of the Demon Lord. So I don't know if I'll ever get to run Punk Apocalyptic in the next year or so, but it is something that I did want to support Sotdl Entertainment, and I did want to have it available for purposes of basically just stealing ideas and mining Punk Apocalyptic for things that I can incorporate into my Shadow of the Demon Lord game. And so anyway, I wanted to mention that. And I think there's been some other things that have come out recently, but I'm not really prepared to discuss those right now. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. Hope you guys are surviving the COVID apocalypse right now. And, we'll see what the Demon Lord has in store for the world next. In the meantime, hope you're getting a lot of Shadow of the Demon Lord gaming in, whether it is virtual or otherwise. But great game, love it, and hope to get back to it soon. So anyway, I'm going to say goodbye now, and It'll probably be a while before I do another video, but that's okay. I will eventually come back, and I'm sure you won't miss me too much. So there you go. Thank you very much for participating, and have a great apocalypse.